my friend. J.R. Dukes at your service. Appreciate you being here. Just hit the go button. So we will just make sure everything's working the way it should. If you have any trouble hearing me, please let me know by typing it in the comments as always. Looks like it's working good. We have had a few little network issues with the internet. Spectrum is supposed to be working on the problem, but for any reason, if you cannot hear me or see me, just type it in the chat and let me know so that if you can hear me, but the camera might freeze, no problem. I can continue talking until it resolves itself. So appreciate everybody being here. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and say hello in the chat. Let us know where you are from. And finally, I'm going to re-put the link. There we go. We just hit the button. If you'd like to join by video, feel free to do so. If you don't want to be on video camera, no problem. Go ahead and hit the link and you can just join with your voice. You don't even have to appear by video. I get it. We're all kind of shy at times to appear on video. I'm the same way. Of course, I'm joking. I generally don't get too nervous or too shy. Just depends on what's going on. All right. Looks like everything's working the way it should. Hello to everyone on the X platform. You can always find me on X at Reach J.R. Dukes. That's the only platform that is at Reach J.R. Dukes. All the other platforms are simply at J.R. Dukes. And if you ever cannot find me, just simply remember my .com, which is simply jrdukes.com. I am working on a new website setup. Instead of it just forwarding directly to YouTube, I plan on having a interactive website at some point. So that's kind of what's going on with me. Let me give you a real quick overview as to exactly what we got planned today, and then we'll check out the comments. So the title was not clickbait after all. You know how we heard a lot during this last campaign season pertaining to Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and the eat the dogs, eat the cats, rough, meow, meow. Folks, as usual, they were gaslighting us. Once again, there is a woman that we're going to talk about here very quickly. There's a picture of her that actually pled guilty today for eating a cat. She killed a cat and ate the cat, and I have a small video pertaining to that. Additionally, sweet Fani Willis. What else can we say about sweet Fani Willis? We have to talk about Fani Willis. She had a terrible day today. As a matter of fact, she had a terrible week. In addition to losing the YSL case today, her office has some other problems going on. There is a gentleman that runs an organization called Judicial Watch. Tom Fenton, as I believe is who his name is, but we'll double check it. He has been pursuing records, and he has been conducting a very serious and in-depth investigation into Fani Willis and the corruption that's all over the Fulton County DA's office. This guy is not pulling any punches, very similar to the lovely attorney at law, Ashley Merchant. She is continuing to hammer DA Fani Willis, her paramour, Nathan Wade. So we'll have to see exactly how that works out. And then, of course, today they had the hearing in front of a judge in Fulton County where basically you had former Governor Roy Barnes defending Fani Willis, and you had other attorneys representing the Georgia Assembly, specifically the Senate committee that demanded that she appear, and she failed to do so. We also have a story. It's one of these, only in the government of Joe Biden. Investigators uncover, you can read the word there. Let's just say it's adult fun and games. A Virginia official who had relations with 32 different coworkers at a Tennessee veteran hospital. I don't know. And also, we all love Sean Hannity, right? Well, guess what? On your screen, Sean Hannity bought a brand new, beautiful home right here in the great state of Florida. Obviously, he's not doing too bad financially, right, to afford that beautiful home. So that is his home, and we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about why buying a home in Florida is such a great idea, specifically asset protection, things along them lines. Also, there is a very important Supreme Court case tomorrow that I plan on covering right here live. I plan on streaming it live. It is going to be oral arguments in front of the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. And this specific case involves a transgender issue. It says the trans lawyer fighting for children to get puberty blockers at the Supreme Court. You can imagine I have quite a bit to say about that particular case. We're going to talk about Mayor Eric Adams. I've been predicting on this channel for quite some time that he's going to become BFFs with former President Donald Trump, and there's more and more stories heading that direction. I should say, I correct myself, President Donald Trump elect, he's going to become BFFs with, and I predict that Donald Trump, I'll predict it again, is going to forgive via a pardon Mayor Adams because he's being targeted by his own woke party, as you may have heard in the news. We're going to briefly talk about an update to the Georgia mom who was arrested for allowing her almost by one day 11-year-old son. She had the gall to allow her son to walk to the store in their small community. Isn't that outrageous? Walk to the store. Man, they need to give her the chair, don't they, for allowing her child to walk to the store? Only in America, right? And if time allows, I have this really cool story that is kind of a good teaser, but it's interesting to think about. And it talks about everyone Donald Trump has said he might pardon. So I think that is an interesting story to take a look at. Additionally, we have the J.R. Dukes scroll that we're going to take a look at. Specifically, I have just a mix of different things that are on the X platform. Not much going on today on Truth Social, but on the X platform, got a lot going on there, as there usually is. And I'm going to take a look at some of the videos that are on there. I've been focusing a lot of energy recently on the J6 hostages, as I like to call them, along with President Donald Trump elect. These J6 hostages, baby, pardon day is coming. That's one good thing about what's going on with Donald Trump is the fact, or I should say with the pardons pertaining to Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, is that Donald Trump, not that it would really affect his decision one way or the other, but man, I tell you what, does he got cover? Not that he cares, not that he needs it, but man, this case here really gives him a nice cover, a nice umbrella, so to speak, that he can use. And I should say refer to. And if I was President Donald Trump, I would be hammering those partners, hammering those partners right, them pardons right and left. So, all right, let's quickly go to the comments, make sure everybody can hear me. Hello, hello, hello to everybody. Hello, American Nanas. Always good to see you in the chat. Thank you for joining us as always. And of course, my friend, Sapphire Ridge News, aka Mark, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. And of course, I got the link right there if you'd like to join. Otherwise, you can always just simply type in your comments as we're reading them right now, and you can put your questions in right there. Not a problem. Matt Smith, thank you for being here. Orange King will save us. Yes, absolutely, my friend. That's exactly right. You know, I don't like to put too much weight into any man. I mean, a human being is a human being. No one's perfect, right? But I really feel something very special happening right now to our country via Donald Trump. Not a doubt in my mind that the Lord God Almighty is using Donald Trump for a time such as this, as the Bible says. And I think this is just a unique time in world history, American history, that that God is bringing about his will via a Pacific person, in this case, Donald Trump, and us by extension, because of course we're supporting him. It's just really important to get our country back on the correct and proper track. When the United States is healthy and strong and focused and doing the right thing, the whole world benefits by extension. So this is a time where we all need to be prayerful and to lift up our president and his entire family, to make sure that we pray for these people. I know that Donald Trump is a man's man, right? He's that macho type guy. He acts like a man should act. But at the same time, he is a human being, and we need to pray for his well-being, for his family's well-being, and that he might make the right decisions that will benefit each and every one of us. Okay? All right, enough said on that. All right, looks like everything is firing the way it should be going. So, welcome. If you're new to the channel, I'm J.R. Dukes. You are at the channel of the free-minded patriots. That's what we're all about. We are here to help you live your best life possible by putting an end to the dreaded disease of indoctrination. If you like talking about current subjects, politics, any type of subject that could basically help you live a better life, this is the right channel. I love to talk about legal issues, police issues, basically keep an eye on the courts, the people that have power over us, so to speak. We need to make sure we are doing our job by staying well informed and making sure that we don't succumb to indoctrination on any level in any way. And Rosemarie Fiera, thank you for being here, sweetheart. Definitely a pleasure to have you in the chat. No doubt about that. All right, let's go ahead and get started up. We're going to take a look at some of these videos via the exclusive J.R. Dukes feed. Let's go ahead and share the appropriate screen, and then we'll get right back into our main story. So we're going to hit the magic button and switch over right now. Here we go. All right, let's find that. That looks pretty good right there. All righty, let's take a look at the first thing. Some of this we're going to talk about, some of it I just put in there for commentary. And if you like to see my comments through the day or see what type videos that I'm looking at and thinking about using for tonight, you can always find it, of course, on the X platform at Reach JR Dukes. All right, now we have heard about the notorious Venezuelan gang. And I know I cannot say it correctly, but it's Trans de la Raga, something like that. Here is a story, Tren de la Raga, capital murder suspect, breaking this gang member. His name is Eber Gabriel Vargas, charged with murder and kidnapping in San Antonio, Texas, following his catch and release by Kamala Harris. Very, very sad, very unfortunate. In my opinion, and I'm sure yours, all of these crimes committed by these illegals, by these criminals that have been let into our country, these are murders, these are crimes, these are, let's just call them assaults. And we know what we're talking about, like that young lady in Georgia that was found dead. These are crimes that are solely borne by the Biden-Harris administration. And it is very shameful that they have allowed this to happen.
One of those victims died. Law enforcement sources tell Fox San Antonio a man now charged with capital murder and kidnapping here in Bexar County is a Venezuelan gang member who was caught by federal authorities, then released into the community. Take a look at the latest mugshot for Eber Gabriel Sierra Vargas. An arrest affidavit says he went on to kidnap two people, shot them, and left them for dead near the quarry. One of those victims died. His body found in the field off Highway 281 back in July. The other gunshot victim survived, telling San Antonio police he pretended to be dead. Flagged down police once Sierra Vargas left. The victim who died was identified as 19-year-old Alexis Jose Vegas. Sierra Vargas was arrested in a multi-agency operation back in September and had been in custody at the South Texas ICE Processing Center on orders to be removed from the U.S. last week.
Isn't that just the highest type of tragedy you could imagine? This guy was already in custody. He was captured and then released, led into the country without any type of vetting. And I want to give just a quick caveat here. It's unfortunate that Venezuela, of all places, is constantly in the news. It seems that way anyways. And generally it's in a negative light. Y'all know that my girlfriend, Rosemarie, is Venezuelan. I can assure you that the vast majority of the Venezuelans are peaceful, God-fearing Christian people that are here wanting to better their lives and better their families. This criminal element is the exception. Having said that, we have to make sure that we rid our communities of these people that are frankly not worthy to be here. I mean, I don't know any other clearer way to say it, but just keep in the back of your mind, not all Venezuelans are like this whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I personally think that what they should do is let in all the beautiful Venezuelan women that want to come over, but that's another subject there. So I digress. Let's continue on. All right. Now we know that President Joe Biden, right after the pardon for Hunter, his son, he decided he was going to take off and go overseas. Specifically, he decided to go ahead and issue the pardon and fly out to the country or the continent of Africa. Well, while he was over there, he decided that he would go ahead and give away another $1 billion of our money. We have people right here in my home state of Florida that are still suffering and in need of help from the numerous hurricanes that have hit our area this year, specifically Milton. You have individuals up in the Appalachia North Carolina, South Carolina, those areas that are in desperate needs of funds to help them with their homes and to repair the devastating damage they suffered. I believe Helena was or Helena, whatever the hurricane from this year was, but it ravaged, it razed that area, and they need some serious help. But yet, you have our president deciding to go ahead and give away more money. Let's listen.
That's the right thing for the wealthiest nation in the world to do. And today, I'm announcing over $1 billion in new humanitarian support for Africans displaced from homes by historic droughts and food insecurity. We know African leaders and citizens are seeking more than just aid. You seek investment. So the United States is expanding our relationship all across Africa, from assistance to aid, to investment to trade, moving from patrons to partners to help bridge the infrastructure gap. I was told, by the way, when I got...
I feel that at certain times it's probably appropriate that we help out countries with certain things they need help with, not every single thing. Listen, there is way too much money going out of the United States Treasury and in to the pockets of other countries, and a lot of it is really siphoned off in corruption to other people, to other parties. We all know this has been going on my entire life. I really don't know how a president of the United States has the power to say, hey, here's $1 billion. I can only assume that Congress has already allocated a certain amount of money to be used at the president's discretion for emergencies or whatever type of situations come up. But it's just aggravating. It's insulting that they allow our money to be spent this way, especially through a president that clearly is not cognitively functioning like he should be functioning. And it's like it's not no big deal. Looks like my friend Matt, I got sent to Somalia. Yeah, well, Donald Trump said, well, you remember some time ago how he referred to a whole group of these countries, right? In Africa, he said they were blank hole countries. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but you leave it to President Donald Trump to set the record straight. Here was something I commented on: the Biden crime factory. The Biden crime family. Senator Ted Cruz. He's generally pretty well spoken. And his comment today says, Joe Biden pardoned Hunter for one reason: to protect himself. And I agree with that, by the way. That's why he pardoned Hunter for any crimes committed from January 2024 until now. I talked about this yesterday, and I just want to briefly repeat it. I heard one of the commentators talk about today, the way the pardon was written was something like you would see in a law school or a law school exam. I have not seen this type of language. Well, last time I seen anything close to it was basically when I was in business and I would have to draft up a release or some other type of paperwork for just miscellaneous things that come up. And you basically use language that says this release is by way of compromise and to buy peace, and it endures to the benefit of any person, corporation, LLC, entity, trust, whatever. You go on and on and on that may claim a benefit from this. It includes every type of whatever, whether known or unknown. And this is very similar language that's in this particular pardon. And I've also heard people say, well, this pardon will be reviewed by the courts. Trust me on this. This pardon is solid. This pardon is in the U.S. Constitution. It is not going to be set aside. They might try to challenge it, but it's just going to be kicked right out of court. It might go all the way up to U.S. Supreme Court, but it's not going to go anywhere. That I can absolutely guarantee you. This is a power that specifically was given to the President of the United States to use in his or her sole and absolute discretion. It was something that was thought out by our founding fathers, and this is something they wanted a president to have. And of course, we disagree with the use of this in this particular situation. But like we talked about yesterday, can anybody honestly say that they're surprised that a father is not going to allow his only living son to walk away from a cage that he could be put in for 20 to 25 years? Clearly, there's a two-tier justice system. Clearly, our justice system is not perfect. I agree with all that. I think what really has people upset at the end of the day is the gaslighting on this subject. President Biden, has been very clear directly to each and every one of us that under no circumstances is he going to pardon his son Hunter Biden. And I think that probably has a lot to do with it. People are just really ticked that he did this, and did it after swearing up and down that he would not do it. So that's my take on it, one way or the other. Bryce, thanks for being here. He says Tim Walz needs to rename Minnesota. Yeah, I like that. Minnesolami or Somalia. I got you. A lot of people in that area in Chicago. Chicago's got a lot of people that have, let's just say, a Muslim background, or they're from that particular area of the world. Same thing with Michigan, as most of us probably already know. And I know there's a lot of Somalians in that area too. All right. I've been chatting on this channel about Mayor Eric Adams. It's clear in my mind, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not. I'm curious if you guys see it the way I say. He got on the hit list. I'm talking about Eric Adams. He got on the we're going to take him out list because he was not singing from the sheet of music that the woke Democrats wanted him to sing from. Almost from day one, he was complaining about all of these migrants coming in, all these illegal immigrants coming in to the city, the state of New York. And the mayor of New York was not happy about having to spend all this money on all these illegal immigrants that were coming into a city. And I get that. I know you get that too. But I think it was then that he started having, let's just say he fell on a desk of somebody that was told, we need to take this guy out and set an example. I also believe another reason they do this, same thing with the senator, where is he from Senator Menendez from New Jersey. Another reason they chose him to go after him, first of all, he made it easier for them with gold bars hanging out of his pockets or in his pockets or whatever. But they did not like some of his politics either. Just my opinion, don't have any proof one way or the other right now, but that's the way I see it. And I know for a fact that Eric Adams was specifically targeted. And in case you don't know, my understanding of what's going on in this particular case is he basically did some favors for the government of Turkey to get their embassy approved in New York City faster. And in exchange for that, if the allegations are true, Mayor Adams received what could be described as an upgrade on his airplane tickets. I'm not making it up. That's the allegations from the Southern District of New York, the feds that are going after him and prosecuting him. So effectively, they're trying to put this man in jail, put him in a cage for cutting through red tape. That's what I see it as. If I'm wrong on those facts, I'll let you know as I review the story from time to time. But in my opinion, that's exactly what's going on. And if I am Eric Adams, I would make sure I'm BFFs with President Donald Trump and hope that I get a pardon. If I was Donald Trump, I would heavily consider pardoning him. I don't know if y'all agree with it or not, but that's just kind of my take on this. So, all right, we have border czar Tom Homan just revealed that New York City Mayor Eric Adams has reached out to meet with him to discuss and plot President Trump's mass deportations. How about that, huh? Ain't that something? Let's take a look at this a little deeper. He says that, I've just been notified he wants to sit down and meet with me. I'm willing to meet with him. Let's work together and get this done. This is a game changer. The mayor of the largest city in America helping with deportations is not something I ever thought would happen. I would argue that the mayor of New York City is even more powerful than the governor of New York. That might be true on its face, but great. I think that is wonderful. There's another mayor, of course, over in, I think it's Colorado, the mayor of Denver, one of those mayors out there. He's coming out at open defiance, just like the mayor of Chicago. These are the kind of people that Tom Homan needs to take a particular hard look at. And if they break the law, bam, he needs to hit them hard and shut them down quickly. Just my opinion. I think there's a video coming up on that exact subject where the Chicago mayor was speaking out that he's going to block, he's going to obstruct, he's going to do whatever he has to do to be anti-Trump, to stand up against Trump. We'll see how that works out for him. If he breaks federal law, I think they should find one of these so-called elected officials, and ladies and gentlemen, they need to drop the boom on him. I mean, they need to hammer and make an example out of these people. Just my take on it.
Is ready to work with you. The Democratic mayor in New York, Eric Adams, a former cop, is ready to work with you.
I hope so, because I just been notified he wants to sit down and meet with me. I'm willing to meet with him. I'm willing to meet with anybody to help make their community safer. Because again, prioritization out of the gate is public safety threats. Work with us on that. It makes your community safer. It keeps my officers safe. It keeps the community safe. Let's work together and get this done.
When's that meeting happen?
I haven't responded yet, but
and of course, this video that you're looking at right beside Mr. Hallman, or however you say his last name, this is the gang members. I believe it's supposed to be TDA or Tren de la Huaca, whatever the TLA, I think is what they call it. Let's see, Tren de la Huaca, whatever it is, this Venezuelan gang. This is them in this Pacific apartment complex going door to door, allegedly terrorizing, taking over this particular apartment complex. Surprising that they would even allow that to happen. And it's the mayor of this particular city. Matter of fact, it says right here, or Aurora, Colorado. So I'm not sure if the same mayor, we'll check it out in a second. But the point is, this is the United States of America. Can you believe this is even going on right here? Pretty shocking to me. So, all right, let's watch a couple more of these here. All right. You have, it says, remember, America, this is Christmas season. You're still going to have to show your ID to travel, but illegal aliens still won't have to. All right, you know how like we get on an airplane, we have to have our identification, passport, whatever with us? Illegal aliens do not have to show identification. I'm not making this up. And this, of course, was reposted by Tom Homan. I think that's how you say his name, Homan. So it's got to be Homan. Let's take a quick listen and see if this is interesting.
With more on all of this, Brooke.
Molly, the first thing you do, as many people know, when you get to an airport, you wait on that security line, you have to show your ID, and you go through TSA. But migrants don't have to show any ID, and in many cases, they are waiting in special lines. So this holiday season, while you're getting to the airport early to beat that holiday rush, migrants, on the other hand, according to a new DHS Inspector General report, reveals they don't have to show any ID, passport. Instead, they can simply use the CBP One app as their documentation. They can even choose whether to allow officers to take their picture. The CBP One app, used by tens of thousands of migrants each month to seek asylum, has faced its share of criticism. The app relies.
So the takeaway from this is that you and me have to have an official ID in order to travel via air. You are a illegal immigrant under the Biden-Harris administration? No problem. Not necessary. You can just use your cell phone and whatever that goofy app is that the Biden administration has set up. That's perfectly fine. Just go ahead and use that. Now, switching gears slightly here, we're talking again about the J6. Let's just say they're hostages. I agree with President Trump. This is from Julie Kelly. As I've been saying all along, the D.C. judges are the real villains in the J6 prosecutions. Talks about Steve Bannon. Bannon wants to make them famous. He is specifically targeting a judge called Amit Mehta. They got some weird judges, by the way. They've been passing through Congress here, I should say the Senate, these last days of the Biden-Harris administration. They're trying to push through all these liberal quacks that you can possibly imagine. One of these judges I was looking at the other day makes every individual that comes before him introduce themselves to the court and state what their pronouns are, whether you're he, him, she, her, whatever. Can you imagine that? In the United States of America. Unbelievable. Let's listen to a quick piece of this.
You know this. The real villains in Washington are the federal judges. Matthew Graves and the DOJ cannot get away with anything, bringing bogus charges, recommending excessive sentences, which includes terror enhancements, cherry-picking evidence, withholding Brady material, all of the things that J6 criminal defense attorneys have well documented. They can't get away with any of that unless...
That is outrageous in itself. I've heard those allegations too. The Brady materials basically meaning as a defendant, you're entitled to all the evidence, whether it is evidence that tends to incriminate you or evidence that tends to exonerate you. And when it comes to the J6 hostages, they're being pushed through, railroaded, if you will. As a matter of fact, I believe today alone, they had 3 or 4 different cases against January 6ers that started today. I mean, they are prosecuting / persecuting these people as fast as they can. Again, thank God for President Donald Trump. Clearly, this is evidence of our two-tiered justice system. On one hand, you have the J6 individuals that are being hunted down like dogs. I got videos of this coming up if we get to it. And I've been collecting these videos because I can assure you we're going to be talking about the practices of police and the FBI. It's one of the main things I'm really, really passionate about, and how to handle these situations. But on one hand, you have the president's son. Oh, I got to mention this too. We can't talk about it on this forum because of YouTube. And I have to tell you, I don't like really talking about these type things because they involve crimes involving minors. And without being too graphic or specific, I did not realize the full extent of what Hunter Biden has been accused of. It's truly shocking and upsetting. And there's photographs of this, of these crimes. I just think there's a lot that the American public in general does not understand as to what Hunter Biden did, or I should say allegedly has done. And it's sick. It's unbelievable. I had to double check it just to make sure I was not looking at something that was fake. It's pretty striking. And again, some of that was just on the X platform, and I can't believe that more of that information is not being disseminated, because everybody needs to know about that. That is also very upsetting about the whole thing. Megyn Kelly has an interesting way of putting this to President Joe Biden, and I like the way that she puts it. Let me know if y'all agree. Let's listen to what Megyn has to say about this whole
found herself in this
situation. Okay?
My poor sister's life got completely blown up by this thing, by this addiction, to the point where she ultimately, once the family sort of tried to let her have a tough love period where we weren't helping her out of the jams that she was creating, found herself in the throes of the criminal law. She had to get a public defender. She had to handle the penalty. She didn't go to jail or anything like that, but it remained a mark on her record forever. And no one gives a damn that you were addicted. No one cares about that backstory I just gave to you. So fuck you, Joe Biden, and your sob story about your rich, spoiled presidential kid, Hunter Biden, and how he's been singled out. Because I know I speak for millions of people who have an addict in their family who did something they're not proud of.
Yeah, she obviously has a very, very strong feelings about it. I apologize for the profanity. I thought I bleeped it out, but apparently I did not. And one other thing I want to clarify too, if you see watermarks going across your screen, I'm trying to be more careful with some of the content that I'm covering, because I don't want YouTube to be flagging it and then it possibly being removed. It's just more of a pain in the you know what. So generally there's different things that I can do that will help prevent some of that. So if you're wondering what's going on with that, that's exactly what that is. But Megyn Kelly is pointing out what a lot of us already know. We all maybe know someone or even have someone in our families that has suffered from drug abuse or some type of abuse along them lines. And they got caught up in the criminal justice system and they paid dearly, and they are marked for life. And again, you have Hunter Biden, who is apparently just going to walk free. So it kind of is what it is. Here's Kayleigh McKinney, if I'm saying her name right, says Chicago residents erupted. This is the mayor in Chicago I was talking about earlier, as Mayor Brandon Johnson, as he vows to oppose Trump's immigration plan. So let's listen to this for a second. The people that were down at this meeting here in the city of Chicago, they were not having it. They were pretty mad. It's interesting to hear comments coming from the city of Chicago. You figure Chicago is all Democratic, but that's just not true. There is a lot of support for President Trump there. And we need to take a quick listen to it, and we'll talk about it.
Chicago residents' outrage over the city's sanctuary policies erupted at a city council meeting yesterday. They gave Mayor Brandon Johnson and Chicago Democrats an earful for prioritizing illegal immigrants over struggling Americans, and rooted for, listen to this, President-elect Trump.
So, Brandon, you and all these Democratic.
By the way, that's that ignorant mayor right there in the middle, the mayor of Chicago right there in the middle. This guy is a complete clown.
Mayors out here and governors, y'all talking about crashing out for these illegals, right? You all sit up there and said you will not allow Trump to come in here and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in $1 billion deficit. And you spent half of our money, half of that on illegals. Trump, Tom Homan, make an example out this right here first. Please come here first, because you know what? We're going to help you. We want to forensic.
Ma'am, I would ask that you.
What do you think about that? She's kind of saying what we talked about earlier. She's like, Mr. Tom Homan, come here first. Make an example out of this bozo right here. I think it's pretty cool. And she was not the only one saying that. This particular video is almost 9 minutes long of people effectively saying what she is saying. They are very, very hot over this issue, and they're very prayerful that something's going to happen that's going to shake this up and hopefully will deter all these crazy politicians from going after President Trump's agenda and not cooperating. Now, listen, folks, you know things are bad when you have someone like Chuck Todd coming at you, a fellow woke Democrat. We've seen Chuck Todd on the news. He's on what is it? I think it's NBC is where I've seen him on. And he is never friendly to any Republican. He tries to give off this aura that he's fair, he's balanced, he's impartial. That's not the Chuck Todd I know. Well, he had a few comments about this pardon himself. He is not a happy camper. So let's take a quick listen on this.
It's almost like
talk about
I follow the Hunter Biden trial very closely.
Mm-hmm.
I read every transcript, all the testimony, because that's what all that was made public. And there is, you want to get angry, just as somebody in just all these mixed emotions. You read the Hallie Biden transcript, and that's Bo's widow.
Yes.
And essentially he turned her into a crack addict. And this was all happening in.
Yeah, it's more than the fact he turned his brother's widow into a crack addict. So apparently after his brother died, it's understandable. You have grief. His widow had grief and they were together. Now, I know a lot of people are very much upset that he got together with his brother's widow. It does sound creepy. It does sound wrong. That doesn't bother me as much as a lot of these other allegations that I'm talking about. And if I'm being straight with everybody here, it doesn't bother me. In the Bible, it was very commonplace years ago that if the husband died, the man that you were generally encouraged to marry or be with was your husband's brother. And what's the reason for that? Well, if you had kids with your husband, the person on this earth that's going to be the closest biologically to your children that can fill the shoes of the father, so to speak, is the brother of your husband. So it kind of makes common sense in that particular way. But in my opinion, this was nothing like that, because he ends up even having relations with the sister. In other words, the widow's sister. So he was all over the place.
In 2017, 2018. And Joe and Jill Biden were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Yep.
So when you talk about the word selfish, it's almost like the word doesn't, their decision to run for president put the entire Democratic Party and the United States of America in the position that it's in now.
Well, that's Chuck Todd, ladies and gentlemen. And when you have him coming at you as a woke Democrat, it's a bad day. It's a bad day all over the place. I don't think there's any other way to shake that up. It's bad. So, all right, here's another little clip of New York Mayor Adams here. It says, New York Mayor Eric Adams just dared the left to cancel him over working with the border czar, Tom Homan, and Trump. It's getting interesting. This is why I've been making these observations here. Let's see how it works out. Let's listen to this real
Those
quick.
who are here committing crimes, robberies, shooting at police officers, raping innocent people, have been a harm to our country. I want to sit down and hear the plan on how we're going to address them. Those are the people I am talking about, and I would love to sit down with the border czar and hear his thoughts on how we're going to address those who are harming our citizens.
Open to that.
Open to
hearing what their plan is.
I think that's a smart man. I think that's a good play on his part. I would definitely cozy up as BFFs with the guy that has the ability, with a stroke of his pen, to correct all of these inappropriate, we'll use that word, inappropriate charges. I would call them persecutions, because that's exactly what they are, and good for him. I think that's wise. I think that's smart. I want to take a look at one or two of these videos right here pertaining to how the police, specifically the FBI, will raid your home. Now, this just has to do with J6ers by themselves, but this happens all the time. And I really pray this never happens to you, or frankly to me or any of us. But this is our government. This is the way they handle these type matters. This is basically what happened to President Donald Trump and his family at Mar-a-Lago when they raided his compound, where they had guns. They had, it looked like a military invasion. It's risky, ladies and gentlemen. There's no such thing as a safe raid, a safe serving of a warrant. It's almost like they enjoy doing this type of, I don't know. It's just, these shenanigans need to end. And I am happy to report to you it should end. Also, in this particular, it will end when Donald Trump takes office. In this particular video, this is the one where this is supposed to be a newer video. It says heavily armed FBI agents raid the home of a decorated veteran after J6 in a newly obtained footage from the Gateway Pundit. This guy's name is Chris Fani, 22-year veteran who received awards, including the Purple Heart. He was sentenced to prison on Friday. One day after the raid, his wife miscarried the baby that she was pregnant with. This is your government at work. This is the nonsense that is going on. Let me get this here, so you can see him going.
Moving. I'll tell you when you bring it in. Yeah.
You just have started. Nobody in our house.
Where is your answer?
You just showed me on the left list.
Left list. Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is not an isolated situation. There are all kinds of videos like this all over the internet, all over YouTube, and definitely all over X. Unfortunately, it's very easy to find these. Here's another one put out by Julie Kelly. It's supposed to be a newer footage from December 2nd, so it's just from yesterday. Ring doorbell camera shows FBI SWAT raid on a California home of a J6 protester from in October 2024. So there still are full steam ahead on all these persecutions. It says the targeted individual was not home, but at least 10 to 15 heavily armed FBI agents stormed the house using flashbangs, aiming guns at his wife and holding her in handcuffs while interrogating her and traumatizing the entire neighborhood. You can see him here pulling up in the background. I don't know how well you can see that or not, but they're pulling up. This is like 6 in the morning. You see the time right here, 6 o'clock a.m. That's generally when you have law enforcement raid a home. They generally like to do it first thing in the morning. Their thinking is you're asleep. You don't expect it to happen. It's first thing in the morning. They figure they can get you before you head out for work. Yeah, imagine their neighbors too. 6 o'clock in the morning, they're disturbing the neighbors. They're disturbing everybody in this particular neighborhood, scaring everybody half to death. Again, they were not home, but that's exactly what the FBI did one beautiful early morning. And again, this is a J6er. We're going to end on this particular video because I want to switch over to some of the other stories we're covering. This is a Ring doorbell cam. It says the Biden administration sent FBI agents to intimidate a nurse. This is a nurse in Houston, Texas. This had to do with something involving the Texas Children's Hospital. Apparently they had some type of program that was supposed to be secret involving taking little kids and allowing them to do sex changes. These are kids that are kids. By definition, they're minors. And they had this secret program. And apparently this individual they were accusing of releasing this information that was supposed to be private. And we're going to listen to it, but you're going to see these two guys from the FBI show up trying to be nice. If you're ever in this situation, ladies and gentlemen, do not talk to law enforcement officers, period. You want to be polite. You want to be respectful. No good can come from talking to law enforcement officers. Point blank. I don't care what they tell you. I don't care how nice they are. My opinion, I wouldn't even answer the door. If they have a warrant, they can come in, break down the door, do what you got to do. If you don't have a warrant, we have nothing to talk about. But if I'm in that situation and I'm face to face, I'm going to be very respectful, very polite. And I'm going to say, hey, I want to have access. I want to have my attorney with me before I answer any questions. Remember, you don't want to plead the fifth that I want to stay silent. I don't want to get too deep into this today, but there's case law out there that kind of suggesting that the courts might change 50 years of law pertaining to when you exercise your right to remain silent. And you have to do it in a specific way and at a specific time. The short version is this: to be absolutely safe, invoke your Sixth Amendment right. And your Sixth Amendment right is essentially, I want an attorney. If you are actually in custody, meaning you are detained and or have been arrested, at that point, you want to exercise your Sixth Amendment right, as we just stated. I want a lawyer. And then the second thing I would suggest that you say is, I want to invoke my Fifth Amendment right, and that is my right to remain silent. I hear people all the time say, I want to invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Don't ever say that. That sounds terrible. It's like I've committed a crime and I don't want to talk about it. You say it, what I just said. I want a lawyer and I want to invoke my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. That's it. Easy peasy. We're going to talk in depth about this on this channel. We have talked about it in the past, but I can assure you we're going to talk about it more in the future. It's important information. Listen, judges, cops, anybody that works in the DA's office, the DA, they teach their children what I just told you. It's not something that you're going to see taught in school. It's not something that's taught in church. It's not something that's generally talked about between people. This is the kind of information, though, that can definitely affect the rest of your life, the rest of your children, grandchildren's lives. It's something that needs to be taught. Why should police and judges and prosecutors know this information, teach this information to their children, but your family and my family are not taught this information? For me, that's an outrage. At the same time, it gives me a purpose. It gives me meaning. If I can save one person from going to jail for a crime they did not commit because they understood the law and how to empower themselves, this is something that I would consider a victory, and it would make me very happy. And even if you are guilty of a crime, why should it be that you have to pay more time incarcerated than someone that happens to be the daughter or the son of a judge or a police officer? Why should your family have to serve more time for the exact same crime than someone else who is taught from the get-go how to handle these affairs? I hope that makes sense. So let's listen to this real quick and we'll see. This is how they try to smooth talk you. Hey, we just want to talk, we're good old boys. We're just here to help you, If you ever hear anybody says, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you, you got a problem.
Hello? Hi. I'm looking for Vanessa Sivage.
Okay. Yeah. Who are you?
I'll make some FBI agent.
Okay.
This is Mr. McBride. Hey, I'm David McBride.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Let me
It's
do
a
this.
really pleasant interaction. You're not in any trouble nor anything.
Okay. All right.
I know it may be a little bit hard to hear on the volume, but I'll reiterate here in just 1 second so you understand exactly what's transpiring.
Hi, how are you? She snuck up on you there. You want to see too?
Hi, how are you? We're the friendly good old boys. We were just here to have a neighborly conversation with you.
Are we interrupting dinner? I'm really sorry.
That's all right. What's going on?
Let me start at the beginning. So I'm sure you're aware of some of the things that have been going on at your work lately.
With regards to,
Yeah. So can we sit down for a minute? Let me do my song and dance.
No. All right. So you heard it there. He goes, I mean, that's an old trick that police officers use. They go, well, I'm sure you know what we're talking about. They're trying to get you to say something, say anything, because anything you say to any law enforcement officer, if you lie or you say something that's not true, you can be prosecuted for that alone, ladies and gentlemen. So it's absolutely imperative that you know how to handle these types of situations if they arise. Also, you notice how they're dressed, just plain clothes, no big deal. I really don't know why that's allowed. That's another issue that I have. How do you know who's actually a police officer and who's not? Just because you got this badge, I can buy them off Amazon anytime I want. Again, there's a whole lot that needs to be rectified, in my humble opinion, on this type of stuff. Here's FBI agents walking in some type of LGBTQ parade. They're in uniform. Notice they were not in uniform, trying to trick them people into saying whatever. Yet they're in a parade and they're happy to put on their FBI credentials. Y'all see that? They're happy to put they're happy to put that information on there. But if they show up at your door, no, they're not going to have no uniform potentially or anything that identifies them. Again, it's something very important. It has to be discussed and talked about, and it is not nearly discussed or talked about enough. So I hope that was helpful on some level and you understand where I'm coming from on that. Let's go ahead and start diving into some of these stories here. And let me catch up on the comments. American Anna, my daughter passed away from the junk in 2020. I'm sorry to hear that, American Anna. I did not know that. And I'm sorry that has happened to you. And Matt Smith, yeah, terrible thing. Says, man, I was very strict parent, but sometimes you're helpless when it involves another mind. American Anna, don't beat yourself up about that. I have 7 natural kids. I raised 1 foster kid on top of that. I raised all my kids the exact same way. And I have literally 8 different results. I don't believe it has anything to do with parenting on a lot of things. I mean, some things yes, some things no. Once a child is an adult, they make their own choices. That's the way it's designed. You cannot hold yourself responsible for something that a child did once they are an adult. It's just that simple. You can't go around beating yourself up for something, woulda, coulda, whatever. You have no way to predict the future. You can only do the best you can do. And I just think you need to take that under advisement, what I just said to you. I hope that helps you out. As I said, with my kids, a lot of experience on this. It reminds me of that movie Back to School. It's a comedy with Rodney Dangerfield. He said, I had 2 sons. One I put through college, one I put through a wall. Now, of course, I've never done that exactly. But the fact is that your kids are all going to be different. I think that's the takeaway from that comedy skit right there. And I just encourage you to kind of think about that. We all can second guess ourselves as far as being strict or whatever the situation is. The not knowing is torture. Yeah, we'll put you on our prayer list there, American Anna. I encourage you to get some help or counseling for that. Understandably, that can be painful for any parent. I thank God I have not been through something exactly like that, but we all have issues like that arise and happen in our lives. So at any rate, let's see, had 3 foster boys for 4 years. One say mess and the other two. Yeah, it happens like that. I think that's a good point, American Anna. You can only do the best that you can do. You can only do what you know to do. And when you know better, you do better. I think that's a fair assessment. I just really encourage you not to go around thinking that anything and everything that happens in an adult's life or even a teenager's life is necessarily your fault. People make their own choices. People make their own decisions. And I think you just have to look at it like that. I hope what I have said is comforting to you and brings you some kind of reassurance, but I did not expect to see that in the comments. Kind of threw me off my game here a little bit, but I appreciate you commenting just the same. Okay, let's quickly pivot. I want to get into this dogs and cats. Remember President Donald Trump getting hammered over this, right? Has to do with eat the dogs, eat the cats, whatever that whatever that was that's going on. Let's there we go. Get as large as we can. Here, this is from the Canton police in Iowa. It's Iowa woman arrested for eating a cat, even though the news was trying to tell you that this never happened. This never could happen. The so-called legacy media. So let's take a look at this little clip, and then I'll show you the resolution.
Stand up. Put your hands behind your back. Someone got rubber gloves. She's covered in blood. So you have a right to remain silent on anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney if you can't afford one, won't be appointed to you at state's expense. You have a right to have that attorney present during any questioning. You have a right to stop answering any questions once they begin. Do you understand your rights?
When she answers, now listen to this, she goes, meow. It's kind of weird.
Do you understand?
Meow. I'm sorry. I know my joke is terrible. She did not say meow. By the way, you see how she is not answering anything. She's not saying yay or nay. I would not advise anybody to do that. If the police officer asked me, do I understand? I would say, yes, I do. And I wish to invoke my rights at this time. That's it. That's all I would say.
Smile for me. Smile with your teeth. Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it?
Oh, that was terrible. She made that admission. She goes, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything. That's just my opinion. You have to make your own choices in life, but that's my opinion.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the cops pretty upset.
Stand up.
And listen, just so we're clear, because I don't want to receive any hate texts or whatever now or later. I love dogs. I love cats. I just choose to make fun of certain things. I realize we live in a politically correct climate. I'm not all that politically correct all the time. Instead of being upset about the cat, I kind of just make it into a joke. That's just the way I deal with certain things like that. So anyway, I just want to say that one time in full disclosure. Now let's take a look at the resolution of this particular case. And this is from today, I believe. Let's see what we got here. All right. And there's a lot of different news sources on this. I realize this is a smaller, the smoking gun. I do like their articles at times, but I did check it with other news sources because there is a lot of information out there on the web that, let's just put it this way, it's somewhat what I call suspect. You don't know if it's real or if it's fake or whatever, but I always double check to the best I'm able to do so before I say something as a fact so that so I can be honest when I say something. So, all right, here we go. The smoking gun. It says Iowa woman charged with killing eating cat. She pled guilty to animal cruelty. Most cases, the overwhelming majority of cases, ladies and gentlemen, are always settled with some type of plea. The reason for that is if every case went to trial, there is not anywhere close to enough judges, courthouses, prosecutors, whatever, defense attorneys for that matter, to put on a defense to each and every case. So in return, what generally happens is that if you take a plea deal, you can control the outcome. And generally the prosecutor will give you less of a penalty. And, everybody has to make that decision for themselves, but generally most people will plead out. I would say another major factor is money. Most people don't have the money just laying around, like in this particular case, even for something like eating a cat, you're going to be looking at 10, 15, $20,000 in attorney bills. That's a lot of money for eating a cat. So let's say Matt says, where are we bringing? Yeah, I agree totally. And listen, there are a lot of cultures that eat animals. In South Korea, they eat dogs regularly. I realize as an American, that's unconscionable. We can't see how that can possibly happen, but I'm just saying it is normal in other countries. I believe India or something like that, that cows are holy. Of course, we eat cows literally for hamburgers all the time. I mean, it's just a difference in culture, and I think that's where what Matt is coming from here. And I agree. Sometimes it's better to have a separate country. You just have a different language. You have a different culture. We had a Mexican American war at the turn of the century back in the late 1800s, and we had a war with Mexico, conquered Mexico, and we gave Mexico back to Mexico. Why? Well, there's a long list of reasons, but one of the main reasons cited by Congress was we have two different languages, two different peoples, two different cultures. So I mean, it's not a bad thing to realize the reality that there is a difference. So, and Matt says, to be fair, we have too many. I think that I love immigration. I think immigration is great. We're in a population decline situation, and we definitely need immigration. But these are things that need to be thought about and thought out. There is a lot of problems over in Europe right now with all the Muslim immigration going on. And it's not in particular anything against Muslims. The problem is there are certain groups of people that do not assimilate. And they really have serious issues with that going on. There are people in custody right now today in Britain and in Ireland for making posts, basically saying what I just said in a Facebook post or an X post, and they are incarcerated as a result of that. As I've talked about many times here, free speech is under serious attack in our country, and we cannot let our guard down. So a lot of these issues are overlapping. You have free speech, you have people going to prison, you have immigration out of control all over the world, and this is a major problem. You had that Angela Merkel out of Germany, the former prime minister there. She let in 1 or 2 million Muslims that came up from Syria. They just literally walked right into the country, and they have a lot of problems right now today. Matt says, perhaps slow cooker. Yep. All right, good. I appreciate the humor. Seems like it would be very tough. It's kind of the old joke, everything tastes like chicken. Probably a lot of truth that I've never ate a dog or a cat. I should say that I know of. There's a lot of Chinese food places around here, but that's another joke, by the way. All right, let's finish up on this article here. It says that Alexis Farrell, 27, she copped to a felony charge during a hearing in Stark County's Court of Common Pleas. That's just what they call their court system there in Iowa. Farrell was arrested in late August after she killed an animal by stomping its head, then eating the cat on the grounds of the Canton Police Housing Complex where she resided. Farrell has been locked up in the county jail on a $100,000 bond since the incident. Police responding to a 911 call found her squatting next to the dead feline. She had blood on her feet and hands and fur on her lips. Cops reported the pet's owner has not been identified. Did you eat the cat? A cop asked Farrell. According to police body cam footage, why did you kill it? And she remained mute as the officer contacted dispatch and asked, will you call the Humane Society to see if they will come pick this cat up? It's deceased. She's received national news coverage after some Donald Trump supporters pointed to the incident in light of the president-elect's claim that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, were eating cats and dogs owned by local residents. Canton is about 175 miles from Springfield. Farrell, who is not of Haitian descent, was born in the United States. Of course, that's what they're going to hang their hat on, right? Is that, she doesn't count. She's not technically an immigrant. There you have it. That's the story. I thought it was interesting because there you have proof that this was not something that Donald Trump just kind of pulled out of thin air. All right. Now let's go ahead and switch gears. I want to talk about sweet Fani Willis, our favorite Fani, right? At least our favorite Fani from the corrupt Fulton County, Georgia area. Good grief. Thankfully, we are not Europe. The Muslims are doing too much loving on the young ladies. Listen, there's just Matt, you're right. There's just a lot of problems going on in a large part of the world, especially with a lot of the Muslim communities. As I just said, the assimilation is really a serious problem. Most other groups that I know of, when they come to the United States, I don't know if it's good or bad, but when they come to the United States, they will assimilate to our culture. I hope my girlfriend does not mind me using the example, but even her two beautiful daughters, my girlfriend used to tell me, oh, well, we're Latina. We do this, we do that. We're all about family. We're together all the time, blah, blah, blah. And of course, they've been here now for quite some time. And her daughters obviously are what I call Americanized. They now subscribe to our traditions, and they're more, I don't know what the exact words are, but they're more free spoken. They feel more liberated, more free. They do what they want to do. They love their mom, they love their family. Don't get me wrong, but they act like any other American kids generally do. It's a part of the assimilation process is what I'm trying to build up here too. So, all right, we need to move on for time reasons. I want to go over this Fani Willis stuff really quick. Bad day for Fani Willis, bad week for Fani Willis. And this is from the New York Post today. Y'all may have been watching the YSL trial. I know my friend at Sapphire Ridge News has been covering it. By the way, if you haven't checked out his channel, I encourage you to do so. It's at Sapphire Ridge News on YouTube, and I think it's the same on X, but I'll have to check. It says Donald Trump prosecutor Fani Willis was dealt a massive blow Tuesday after her prosecution of YSL gang, Georgia's longest running trial. This whole trial, by the way, was a mess. This is the reason why you do not try this many people in one courtroom at one time, because you have the type of result that you're seeing right now. It turns out to be a mess, and it's very hard to deal with that many people at one time. The longest running trial ended with the acquittals of the last two defendants in the case. They were found not guilty. A Fulton County jury Tuesday morning found DeMonte Kendrick, who raps under the name Yak Goody, not guilty on all charges, and was also acquitted was Sharon Stilwell of all charges except for one count of firearm possession by a convicted felon. Stilwell and Kendrick were accused of murdering rival gang member Devon Thomas Jr., a.k.a. Big Nut. I don't know how they come up with these names. I don't know that I want to know. During a drive-by shooting outside an Atlanta barbershop January 10, 2015. Stilwell was also accused of fatally shooting Smiles Drinks in 2022 in alleged revenge for murders days earlier of the two YSL associates. Stilwell was sentenced to 10 years, the maximum penalty for the gun charge. That happens a lot in court, by the way. You'll see a situation where someone is on trial for murder and then they put a gun charge. And these people are guilty, right? But the jury returns a verdict of not guilty on the murder charge. And then on the weapons charge, they generally are pretty happy about that because they beat the murder rap. What can happen sometimes in some situations, the judge says, okay, they found you not guilty of murder, and then the judge gives you 25 years on the weapons charge. I've seen that happen a whole bunch. In this particular case, it's not quite 25 years, but they did get 10 years on the weapons charge, and that might be appropriate. I have not listened to every detail of the trial, but a felon in possession of a gun does not sound like a good idea. It says the duel. There was a lot of stabbings. This is another problem. There's so many problems there in Fulton County, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, tons of problems in Fulton County, Georgia. The prison there is notorious. It's overpopulated. The prisoners there are not safe. The duel were both stabbed in separate incidents while jailed during a long, winding trial. It says with Kendrick getting wounded Sunday and Stilwell last year. In October, co-defendant Grammy winner Young Thug, whose given name is Jeffrey Williams, copped to a surprise plea deal in the case accusing him of being the ringleader of the YSL gang, or Young Slime Life. Judge Reese Whitaker sentenced Williams 33 to 40 years, but his sentence was commuted to time served on the condition he complies with the conditions of probation for 15 years. If Williams, who was behind bars for over 2 years pending in the case, violates these terms, he must serve 20 years in prison. So he beat the murder rap, but he better stay on the straight and narrow. Otherwise, he's got a lot of time that he's going to have to serve. All right. Well, let's continue with Fani Willis's week. So it's not great news for Fani Willis. Matter of fact, it's terrible news. As we talked about yesterday, her case where she went after Donald Trump in the so-called RICO case, this case is over. I pronounced it dead a long time ago. This case is over, but she will not let it go, in my humble opinion, because she likes having her name in the papers. I am confident one way or the other, when Donald Trump comes to power and the new Republican Congress comes in, they are going to investigate the bejesus out of these people, specifically Fani Willis, Nathan White, and any and all of their enablers. They make it easy, in my opinion. You have this situation of this perjury. This perjury alone should be easy to prove. And the fact that there is a collaboration between all these parties. I mean, everybody has collaborated on this. You have the Biden administration. They've had individuals that worked for them quit, and I'll use that in quotes, and go to New York City for the Letitia James Alvin Bragg trial. And then you had situations where you had officials from the Biden administration. We talked about it on this channel as far as them being plants or whatnot in the Fani Willis administration. I believe her number 3 was shown to be a direct plant, or at least a watcher, by the Biden-Harris administration. All these people are in bed together on this. So in addition to all this, you have Ashley Merchant. We love Ashley Merchant, attorney Ashley Merchant out of Cobb County, Georgia, who was representing, I believe it was Roman, one of the defendants in this, in the RICO case. She has been hammering Fani Willis. She's tenacious. She's drilling for the truth and for all this information. And that's what led to the undoing of this case originally. Remember, was her motion to have Fani Willis and the administration recused off this case. Well, you also have Tim Fitton of Judicial Watch. I love his channel. He's got a great channel also. And he has been seeking records through the Georgia Open Records Act. So this is from the Law and Crime channel. It says it is undisputed Fani Willis harshly chastised by judge for violating open records laws in lawsuit seeking her communications with Jack Smith and the January 6th committee. A court in Georgia this week found Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis in violation of the Peach State law, open records laws, yet again. This is not her first time having issues with this. This time, the violation occurred within the context of a lawsuit aimed at prying away information about the Democratic Party prosecutor's communication with special counsel Jack Smith. I told you, all these people are in bed together, and members of the since defunct House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack. It says in a 6-page order granting the plaintiff's motion for default judgment, Fulton County Superior Court Judge McBurney ordered the district attorney's office to provide the requested documents and left open the possibility of forcing the state to pay attorney fees. Ouch. That starts getting expensive. Of course, she doesn't care. It's the money of the taxpayers that's going to be paying for all that nonsense. In the underlying lawsuit, conservative government watchdog group Judicial Watch accuses Willis and Fulton County broadly of making likely false representations. That's a nice way to put that in it. Likely false representations about the retention of such documents. Fani Willis and Fulton County seem to have provided false information about having no records of communications with Jack Smith and the Pelosi January 6th committee. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton said in a March press release announcing the lawsuit on October 22nd, 2023, the watchdog group, the Judicial Watch is what they're saying, filed an open records request for, quote, all documents and communications sent to, received from, or relating to, end quote, Smith any employees in his office, and the House committee investigating the pro-Donald Trump riots. So yet another loss for sweet Fani, and it's only going to get worse for her. I hate to see anybody go to jail, but I think Nathan Wade and Fani Willis have real, serious liability, potential criminal liability. We'll have to see how this all plays up. I would not want to trade places with them. That I can absolutely assure each and every one of you. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share this screen with you here because I have to go through these other ones here. Here we go. All right, let's see how this works out. All right. This is a breaking story today from Breitbart. Investigators under this was an investigation, right? This was their conclusion. In a Breitbart exclusive, investigators uncover, well, let's just call it an adult party via official who had relations. Y'all realize I'm substituting words for YouTube requirements, monetization issues, all right? They had adult relations with 32 different co-workers at a Tennessee Veterans Hospital. Several top veterans officials in Tennessee resigned. And this is like now, December 3rd, 2024. This is brand new, breaking news. Resigned as an internal investigation and a broader congressional probe into alleged adult relations, and testified, Breitbart News learned. Congressional investigators discovered the one man who resigned, whose name they would not tell Breitbart News, but sources familiar say was the bargaining unit biomedical employee, had dozens of relationships with women who worked at the Mountain Home VA Medical Center in Tennessee. In fact, the congressional investigators told Breitbart News this one man, he had relations with no fewer than 32 different women who worked there. Sounds like a fun place to work, right? Well, all joking aside, that is probably criminal behavior if it is not outright inappropriate behavior for a whole list of reasons that we're not going to get into today. Again, it's just more evidence of the unhinged Biden-Harris administration, the people they have running things for them. On your screen is the house that was just purchased by our favorite Sean Hannity of Fox News fame right here in Florida. Isn't that nice? Now, you might ask, why would you buy a home in Florida? Well, Sean Hannity himself has complained on numerous occasions about the fact that New York City was just too darn expensive. Just outrageous, the cost of living, all the regulations and everything else. Plus, my friends, when you own a home in the great state of Florida, it is probably even better than Texas. It's arguable, but I think there are some clear advantages to Florida as far as it goes in relation to what they call homestead protections or asset protections. Once you own a home in Florida, as long as you pay off the home, that you don't have any back taxes on the home, and you don't have any what's called material man liens on the home. In other words, you hire someone to do plumbing work and then you just don't pay them. As long as you pay common sense things, nobody can take your house and your personal name titled to you. It just cannot happen, not in this lifetime. And federal bankruptcy laws will not even allow your house to be taken. I think it has to be like 1,040 days, but as long as you stay out of bankruptcy court for, let's say, 1,000 days, as long as you pay your taxes, Florida, you do not get any better protection of your home than you have right here in the state of Florida. And as I said, the state of Texas has something similar, but there are some unique provisions to Florida that makes Florida, so hear me clearly, Florida is the most debtor-friendly jurisdiction in the world. Imagine that. I know to somebody that may not mean anything, but I'm telling you, if you are a doctor, if you are, well, you're just any profession and you've worked your entire life, God forbid something happens and you have some type of, let's just say, civil judgment against you, the state of Florida is the place to be that can protect your nest egg, specifically your home. Says after leaving New York, Sean Hannity pays $23.5 million for a Florida estate waterfront property in Manopan. Has a dock, pool, rooftop observation terrace. And there he is with a big smile on his face. Our man, Sean Hannity, following a move to Florida earlier this year, Fox News star Sean Hannity has purchased a waterfront estate in the upscale Palm Beach town of Mano. Let me see if it will tell me what the how to say that word. See if it tells me. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but Manalapan, that's what it said. Manalapan for $23.5 million, according to people familiar with the deal. The home first came on the market for a few months in in February for $29 million and was later revised to $25.95 million in October. So he got a great deal on his home. So congratulations to Sean Hannity. I don't begrudge somebody having a nice big home. Nothing wrong with that, in my humble opinion. Now, if you're interested, tune in tomorrow. I think it's right at 10 o'clock. I'll make a posting on X, and if you hit the subscribe button, you'll get notification when I go live. But there is an important case being argued before the United States Supreme Court tomorrow, and here is the basics of it. This guy is the trans lawyer fighting for children to get puberty blockers at the Supreme Court. You can't make this stuff up, right? All right, Chase Strangio. It's pronounced, the actual plaintiff is Sacmanti, will represent families who say Tennessee's ban on treatments for transgender children is unconstitutional. So this guy here is the lawyer that is representing this family from Tennessee who's basically trying to overturn a Tennessee law that restricts minors from getting these type of procedures done. On Wednesday, the first transgender lawyer to argue before the Supreme Court will say the hormone replacement therapy and puberty blockers should be prescribed to minors. Unbelievable, isn't it? We'll see how that goes. It'll be interesting to see how the U.S. Supreme Court feels about that tomorrow. And finally, Georgia mom. This is the Georgia mom. We've talked about her, Brittany Patterson. Just a quick update on this. She has hired a lawyer, and it looks like she's going to go ahead and sue. Not only is she going to defend herself in court, which she should do, but it looks to me like she's getting ready to go after the police department and maybe even the state by extension. We'll see. Georgia mom's arrest sparks debate on free-range parenting and government overreach. This is the woman that was arrested at her home for allowing her, I think he was like one day from 11 years old, from walking to the store. If this is the way the laws are nowadays, my parents could have been arrested many times over because I would walk to the store or to Dairy Queen all the time. As Georgia law enforcement officers arrested Brittany Patterson in front of her children last month, they said the changes revolved around reckless endangerment. How was I reckless endangering my child? The mom of four asked the sheriff's deputy. The moment caught on body cam, and of course it was shown all over Fox and Friends on the weekend. The deputies refused to answer at the time, but Patterson explained why in a hurried exchange with her son, Soren, before being taken into custody. She says, "They're taking me to jail because you decided to walk down the street," she said, after officials had spotted the boy, 10 at the time. He was one day, as I said, from being 11, walking home alone in their small town. Now Patterson is escalating her case, refusing to accept any plea deals and hiring a lawyer to argue she did nothing wrong, according to the New York Post. As presidents, we should have that autonomy, that whether we want to wrap our kids in bubble wrap or whether we want to give our kids a little more freedom, I think that's the way it should be. I meant, who wants the government telling us what we can and can't do with our children? And make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, that's the way it is here in the United States. You have your children at the pleasure of the government. And that should not be the way things are. And that the parents should be able to decide if their children can walk to the store or whatnot. Just my humble opinion. I'm sure most of you probably agree. Quickly checking over to see if we have any other comments before we start winding it down right here. Let's see. Yeah, Sean Hannity makes a lot of money, right? Sean Hannity, the last time I checked, makes $20 million a year. Yeah, he can easily afford that house. I'm sure that is not going to be a stretch for him, American Anna. You are absolutely correct about that. Oh, $40 million a year. $25 million from Fox News. Yeah, he is definitely a wealthy man. And Sapphire, cops can be awful. I agree. Obviously, I support fully our men and women in the blue of law enforcement. Having said that, there needs to be a lot of changes made, and certain laws and rules that we have are just very antiquated, and they need to be done away with one way or the other. So, all right. I appreciate everybody joining me today. Thanks for all of our viewers on the X platform and everyone on YouTube, as always, and our friend on Twitch. Always a pleasure to come, have time to sit down and chat with each one of you. Don't take it for granted. I appreciate everybody stopping by and saying hello. I enjoy discussing and having these conversations with each and every one of you. And until we meet again, I hope that God will bless you, your family, and that you will carry his special anointing with you all throughout the day. If you need to reach me, my contact information is in the scroll across the bottom of your screen. And of course, the information should be in the comments right there. It's definitely at Reach JR Dukes on YouTube. And of course, on the X platform is at Reach JR Dukes. It's just simply at JR Dukes on YouTube and all the other platforms, Truth Social, Twitch, all the other ones. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate it. I always like to say, keep that mind free. Never give up. Until next time, my friends, I am JR Dukes.